What's good, YouTube? It's Rico here, and I've got a deck profile for Pendulum Magician under the May/June 2018 ban list. Like I said in my ban list review, I don't think Magician is dead. There's too many generically good cards in this archetype for me to think that losing Astrograph and Starving Venom actually killed it off. I don't know if I would say it's one of the best decks in the format, just because there's so many other good things running around right now, like Altergeist, Spiral, even like Trickstar and Sky Striker Ace. We're about to get that, but I do think this is very solid. I think it is a contender moving forward. I don't know, it could end up being one of the better decks in the format. It's definitely got a lot of solid plays. And the way I approach this, because I know some people are playing like the Mythical Beast, is replaces Astrograph as a way to get a body on board, and also just is defense and power. But honestly, I didn't really like that approach. I felt like it added an enormous weakness to Ash, and I feel like this deck is a lot weaker to Ash anyway without Astrograph. And so I decided to focus back on the Magicians. I went back to the roots. I focused specifically on the Magicians, and I feel like it grinds a lot better. It maintains advantage a lot better this way. So the boards are weaker, but I feel like it can continuously play the game, and I think that's what's important. So yeah, let's get into it. And I've done test hands, and I played against a friend who was proxying Sky Striker Ace, and overall it did really well. So I do think this is still a very powerful deck. So for monsters, we got 3 Black Fangs, 3 Harmonizing, 3 Purple Poisons, which are all still really important. 3 Wisdom Eye. So last format, I went from not liking Wisdom Eye to loving Wisdom Eye to still liking it, but acknowledging that the Mythical Beasts were probably just as good as this. I think now Wisdom Eye and along with Oath are really, really important for just maintaining advantage and being able to have plays. There's some really cute combos you can do with Wisdom Eye, Harmonizing, and Oath Dragon if you have Star Pendulum Graph, which I also play, spoilers. And you can make Electromite, dump the Harmonizing, get the Oath Dragon, put the Oath Dragon in your hand, Wisdom Eye, put the Harmonizing back in your hand. There's a lot of really cute shit you can do with these cards, especially with Electromite. So I think that's where the focus should go, is doing the interactions with these. And that's where I think the deck would be able to still play. So I definitely think these are really important. And then 1 Janky. This guy's actually really, really good now, because without Astrograph, we need another level 7 for Vortex. I know people were like, oh, well, now we can't play Vortex, but you very much still can. Because if you get, Gate 0 and, a Wisdom Eye, in your extra deck, which is, Gate 0 and Wisdom Eye, which is really easy, and then you just, Harmonizing, then you summon the Janky, and then you have the Wisdom Eye and the Harmonizing, so that's 2 level 4s and 2 level 7s, so you can make Vortex and something else. So, in that regard, I feel like Janky is extremely important now. So, yeah. And then Time Gazer for the 3 chronographs that I still play, because free summons are good. And then other, summon stuff. So I cut down to 2 Dark Room and 1 Gate 0, just because, without Astrograph, the deck has a lot less ways to guarantee having something to summon alongside the Dark Worm if it's in your hand. Because I don't play the Mythical Beast, because for the reasons I stated. So, we used to have, 8 ways to get something along with the Dark Worm out, or get the Dark Worm in something else, because you had, the Shrine, the Foolish, the 3 Chronos, and 3 Astros. But now it's, I think there's, 5, 6, something like that. So, really, Dark Worm normaling isn't really that great anymore, I feel. But it's still decent enough where, opening it's not terrible. And, if you open it with, Pendulum Call, it's still a power play. So I didn't want to play 3, but I think 2 is fine. And Gate 0, I feel is actually not really good without Astrograph. What made Gate 0 so great with Astrograph is that, you'd play the Gate 0, you'd, summon Electromite to ditch Astrograph, you'd pop the Gate 0, you'd summon Astrograph, you'd get the other Gate 0, and you had 1 in your scale and 1 in your, extra deck to summon. But, without Astrograph, that play is not really amazing, so I don't really want to see more than 1 Gate 0. So I feel the 1 is fine. Excuse me. And this has been working a lot better. I felt 3 and 2 was really clumpy now without Astrograph, but 2 and 1's been working great. And then I play the Curtain Raiser. This is just something else to summon for free, without Astrograph. And it's not the other problem I have with the Mythical Beast is, aside from losing to Ash, like, they're kind of bricky because drawing Jackal King is actually not that great because it doesn't do anything to further your game state. So, Curtain Raiser kind of does the thing where you can just summon it for free. So, but it's once per duel, so I didn't want to play more than one. And then 3 Ash. This card is pretty much mandatory now, I feel, moving forward. Like, pretty much every deck, I feel, something gets hit by Ash. So I feel like you just have to play it. And that's all the monsters. I think it's 26 monsters, and then it's, I think, 12 spells and 2 traps. Yeah, something like that. No, it's 27 monsters, and then 11 spells and 2 traps, yeah. Anyway, 3 Desires, even more important now, just to gain advantage. But I've always been a fan of 3 Desires in this deck. 1 Shrine, 1 Foolish, still good enough to play the 1/1 just to get the Dark Worm. 3 Duelist Alliance, 2 Star Pendulum Graph, 2 Time Pendulum Graph, and Pendulum Call. So these, I think, are what are going to keep the deck alive, because I feel like people forgot just how good the Pendulum Graphs are. Star Pendulum Graph is amazing. You can do so many crazy things with this card, with like Wisdom Eye, even like Chronograph into Time Gazer, and then linking into Electromite will trigger Star Pendulum Graph. So like it lets you maintain your advantage. Duelist Alliance gets you all this shit. Time Pendulum Graph is still like absolutely broken. So I cut to 1 Pendulum Call, even though like last format I thought this card was fucking broken. It still kind of is, but the problem is that the deck is a lot more focused on like the Wisdom Eye stuff. And Pendulum Call conflicts with Wisdom Eye a lot. And last format, I don't think that was a big deal, because the deck had so many options that it could just play around that anyway. But I feel like now, like with how important Wisdom Eye is, there's a lot of times where I just don't want to hard drop Pendulum Call. But I still want the 1 for when I need it. So like Duelist Alliance essentially lets me run 4 of them, but it also lets me run 1 when I don't need it. So I think this was a good ratio call. But yeah, the Star Pendulum Graph and Time Pendulum Graph are still really good, even without Double Iris. And honestly, if Double Iris was still legal even at 1, this deck would probably still be one of the best in the game. Like, without a doubt. But yeah. That's the main deck. It's 40. Extra deck. It's not too different from the previous format. There's like a couple things I changed. Obviously, there's no Starving Venom. And what else did I cut? Oh yeah, I cut Evil Storm Nightmare because I feel like moving forward it's actually not very good. Like Spiral doesn't give a shit about it, Skystriker doesn't give a shit about it, Altergeist doesn't really give a shit about it. It's cute to wall Trickstar with, but that's about it. And like, I guess it would be good in the mirror, but in the mirror you can also make Tornado Dragon. And then, like, yeah, I don't know. I felt like Nightmare wasn't really that great anymore, and every time I made Nightmare, I was like, I can make anything else. So yeah, Borload, Metaltron, Electromite, that hasn't changed. Absolute Dragon still hasn't changed. Norito, I originally wasn't still playing this, but the fact that there's triple Chrono and triple O, if I could actually see this coming up. And like before it was Nightmare, but this card just doesn't really feel that good. Utopia the Lightning Utopia, I replaced Dark Rebellion with these, because I feel like this guy overall has a lot more utility, even though Dark Rebellion has the potential for more damage. But Utopia just being able to block things, blanketly going to 5,000, is also honestly just really good. And the reason I didn't play Utopia the Lightning before and I was playing Dark Rebellion is because I just didn't have room. Like, every other card I felt was important, so I couldn't afford 2 spaces for Utopia the Lightning, so I just played Dark Rebellion. But with Starving Venom gone, I felt like this was fine. Like, Starving Venom and Nightmare essentially became this. There was something else I cut, and I can't remember what it was. Yeah, there had to be something else I cut. Because, like, there's Dweller, that's obvious, and I put Time Star Magician back in. So like, I'm trying to figure out what else I cut, because I know I cut Starving Venom, but that was obvious, it got banned. And then I cut Dark Rebellion, so those became the Utopia and Utopia the Lightning. Oh, and then I cut Nightmare, so then Time Star Magician, yeah. So this is kind of cool still. It doesn't come up super often, so like you only play 1, but essentially if I open Time Pendulum Graph, and I can make it rank 4, I'm probably going to make this, because it lets me get the double pop off of Time Pendulum Graph. Being able to search, like, another Scale or a Harmonizing Magician is really nice. Overall, it's got utility. It's not super amazing, but in the situations where I want it, I would like to have it, for sure. And especially, like, now that I'm playing less Pendulum Calls, I feel like Time Star Magician is really important for keeping your scales up when you have Time Pendulum Graph. Like, before, when I was, like, playing 2 Pendulum Calls, probably would have considered playing 3. I felt like Time Pendulum Graph was, like, fine regardless, but now that, like, Pendulum Call is less of a focus in this build, Time Star Magician is really good. And then Tornado Dragon. And then for Synchros, it's still only Ignister, Omega, and Clearwing. I considered playing Enlightenment Paladin, but I don't think it's really going to come up that much. If I really wanted to play Enlightenment Paladin, I could probably cut the Norito, but I don't know. I've never really been a fan of Enlightenment Paladin, to be honest. I felt like a lot of times one of these was just better. And it's like, you can get a spell back, but a lot of the times I don't really want to get back a spell because most of them are like a one-time use thing. And then the last thing is Vortex. So yeah, that's the deck. I don't have a side because I haven't been playing this seriously. Probably be along the lines of like Ogre, Reaper, evenly matched. You know, just the generic shit. But yeah, overall, that's the deck. I definitely think Magician is still very playable, for sure. It's far from dead. It's a lot weaker, certainly, but it can still do crazy plays. So, I don't know. I would not count this deck out, and, you know, moving forward, I might end up just liking it so much that I play it anyway. But anyway, so that's the deck profile. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.